hand, here you are, a professional physicist, and nobody went on a limb before, but you knew what you were talking about. What was the chutzpah that you didn't care what people were saying all those years ago?
Well, thanks for having me. I grew up indeed on a farm, and I care less about what people say than about nature. As a scientist, I have the privilege of maintaining my childhood curiosity. And the most fundamental question in science is, are we alone? Because if we have neighbors in our cosmic environment, that means that we might not be at the top of the food chain, cosmologically speaking. And also, we could learn about new science, new technologies from them. It would mean that if you believe in God, that God is not a parent to only one child. And, that would inspire us, instead of focusing on conflicts on the surface, the two-dimensional surface of this rock.
For sure.
That we were born on, we would be inspired to consider the three-dimensional interstellar space that we can explore. And so altogether, I think it will be a very uplifting message to humanity. We are all in the same boat. And if we have a neighbor, knocking on the door
that are smarter than us, we should want to learn from them anyway.
Well, a knock on the door very often convinces family members to stop all the loud arguments and focus on the visitor. So that's my hope for the future.
Right.
But as of now, we don't have a definitive evidence. But indeed, back in 2017, we had an interstellar object that looked very peculiar. It was flat in its shape, was pushed away from the sun by some mysterious force other than gravity, and didn't show any evaporation the way comets do. So I was suggesting maybe it's technological, and now the US government is releasing files that are related to unidentified objects. These are objects the Pentagon, the intelligence agencies cannot figure out. And you would think that they would be very reluctant to disclose that fact because it means that they're not performing their job.
But why was it closed all of these years? We've all been speculating, like, why was it so serious to keep it hidden? I mean, we've been talking, that 8-pointed star one, everyone's been talking about that for months. Like, why did it have to be such a big secret?
Well, the first reason is that much of this data was obtained by classified sensors. These are sensors that the US government doesn't want adversarial nations to be aware of. But the second reason is, of course, that when bureaucrats cannot figure things out, they don't want to admit that they're not doing their job. They just file it away. And so classifications offers a very convenient solution to that, so that the US Congress will not review those holes in the defense of the United States. And so recently, President Trump had a directive to release all information that does not have any consequences for national security.
Yeah.
And we've seen 4 releases that were viewed by 2 billion people around the world, which is quite remarkable. I don't know of any other website that over 2 months had 2 billion viewers. So this is a subject of great interest to the general public. It also inspires kids to become scientists.
Yeah, exactly. I love this stuff. I can talk about this all day. I'm one of those kids that would just sit and wonder and look at the stars. So I get it. If I didn't become a journalist, I might be an astrophysicist myself. But, with that said, you can't... There's pilots, official people that are now all being interviewed saying that they saw this, people being afraid of being made fun of. But we're seeing these videos. Like, what?
Well, the situation is quite different than the script of Steven Spielberg in the film, the recent film Disclosure Day, where the main characters have their car smashed against a moving train. My car is intact, and in fact, the U.S. government asks for my advice as a scientist on this matter. So, the thing about science is most of the time we are in a state of uncertainty because we don't have enough clues, enough evidence, and it's the work of a detective. And we can make progress by collecting new data or analyzing past data. And so we need to build new sensors, or if the government has useful data, my council is trying to get a hold of it so that we can analyze it. And my hope is we can make progress on this. There are 2 possibilities. Either we're dealing with human-made technologies, in which case it's a matter of national security.
Right, but how? You're seeing it go up, down, sideways, like with no propellant. How can it be a human made?
I'll give you an example. Imagine laser beams creating a hotspot in the atmosphere. It's just like the spot of a laser moving around and making cats crazy. You know, they follow the spot as if it's an object. We might be looking at something like that. So there is no friction of the atmosphere because it's not a real object. So, you know, but it's unlikely to be a laser spot because we're dealing with objects seen out to many kilometers, and the amount of power you need in a laser like that would be far beyond what the military employs. I mean, recently we know about Rafael in Israel producing a laser weapon that can protect against drones, against.
But you know it's a laser. If you're a missile, you know it's a laser. You're not going to think. No one's going to say, "Oh, it's a UAP."
Oh, that's right. So the fact that the Pentagon, the intelligence agencies, come to me as a scientist means that they are not sure whether it's human-made. If they were confident it could be human-made or technologically manufactured by other nations, they would write a classified memo to the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. Instead, they come to me, and that means to me that there is a chance of us finding something really unusual. Let's look into it. So I was like a kid in a candy store when they had me at hello when they asked me to do this.
So, you know, another thing, taking it back a little bit, I mean, because we look back at the ancient sources, biblical times. I mean, there's all of these also allegories in the Bible and the Torah, you know, and the Zohar talking about things. You hear the stories of Samaria and, you know, all of these theories that many people, you know, talk about. But, you know, you would think that these things don't just come in a vacuum. I mean, folklore isn't necessarily so far off. So why science, everyone accepted it then. Why does science need to make it more complicated of having to prove it?
Well, I'm trying to make the point that science doesn't need to make it complicated, but we need to attend to evidence, because stories are not necessarily true. We know that, you know, politicians tell the public stories that end up not being true. Religions do the same. So the way for us to make progress is by collecting evidence, clues that will guide us towards the truth. That's the difference. And it takes more time, of course, to do the hard work than to tell stories. That's why I say keep our eyes on the orbs that are being reported, not on social media.
Right.
It's just like basketball coaches say, keep your eyes on the ball, not on the audience. And that's what we need to do. Now, it's possible that, we were visited in the past. In fact, that humans acquired a lot of our current abilities as a result of advice that we got from visitors, interstellar visitors. That's possible. We just don't have conclusive evidence for that.
I hope we can find this. We're out of time. If someone needs to find it, it's you. You have to finish what you began. Why won't they just land here and let us do samples?
Well, thank you. I'll do my best. And of course, the big picture
so we can test it.
If you believe in God, it would mean that God is not a parent to only one child.
Makes sense. Thank you so much, Avi. I could go on and on forever. We'll have to continue this.